Hi, and thanks for tuning in to our second segment on how to use the big Dreadnought from the workshop. In all probability, you have been linked here from a comment I placed upon the workshop entry. Unconventional, I know, but I felt it was compelling and necessary for this particular piece. So let's get right to it. This is our second section. We are covering how to customize the Dreadnought because it is packed with a lot of modular parts right from the get-go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do the easiest thing, coloration. We're going to push 3, I'm going to go to paint. We're going to middle click the lighter gray shade here, let's just say, and we're going to do 3 things. We're going to right click a chassis block, just normal right click to color all of them. We're going to right click a box, and we're going to go up here and we're going to find our capsule and right click our capsule. So we'll have dyed our entire machine a new shade of color. There are 6 pre-included colors, and in case you ever say, oh no, I overrid the original, don't. We have all the colors backed up with 1 value less in every field of red, green, and blue. So personally, I just push Q, D, right click, and then I left click the piece to restore it. And there's our color, good as new. So yeah, that's coloration in a nutshell. You can color them whatever you want, theoretically. There's nothing that stops you. The default ultramarine blue shade is totally unique, so out of the box, I can foresee no conflicts of interest regardless of what you use. However, if you recolor what you colored, it's theoretically possible you could run into a few colors and bump into that. So, for our next section, we're going to cover emblems. So, let's demonstrate very briefly, because we didn't cover this in the first video, because it wasn't relevant. In essence, these guys have lots of different little logos on them. Well, stamps, I believe they're called. So we have our inscribings on these gold tablets. We have the inscribings on the little bits of paper on the purity seal. We have the skull on the wax of the purity seal. And then we have, by default, the ultramarine U/Omega sign sort of thing on the arms. So if we want to go out and we want to customize these logos, the first thing to note is 0 is used as our frame number in these stamps. You know, this right here is indicating our frame. We have 7 total stamps we use, 0 through 6. Our first position, 0, is done with the inscribings. The second position, 1, is done with gold. Or sorry, I mean the wax seal. Gosh, I'm just spacing all over the place. And then after that, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 deal with 5 different emblems you can get, which are mostly related to chapters, but there's a couple related to things like the Death Watch, for instance, which aren't inherently a chapter and as far as categorization. So we're on 6, which is because Ultramarines starts with a U. It is alphabetized 2 through 6, which one comes first. So we have in order of Blood Ravens, Death Watch, Grey Knights, Salamanders, and Ultramarines. And if that seems really specific, or say you hate the Grey Knights or something, I really just kind of came up with these colors I thought were good to color the machine, and decided on what faction relevance they would have later. There's also an 8th slot in the stamp if you have the technology and interest in putting in a custom 8th decal, which you would then access with a value of 7. We did Grey Knights, so that's going to be 1 plus 3, which is going to be 4 for the Grey Knights logo. And yeah, and we're just going to apply that to all 6 of our stamps. There is 3 stamps stacked on each side, so it can be transparent but still be very easy to see against the backing. And it's white, of course, so it doesn't recolor it in an unintended manner. Now, as you'll see here very briefly, we have a new Grey Knight's little golden book and sword inscribed on each of our arms. That covers really the main gist of that, so if you don't mind, we're going to move on. Next, we're going to get to customizing weapons. I'm going to start with the easiest and work my way up, so you kind of can see how the concept is done. We're going to start with these swords. The swords are indicated by S's. This is on the machine's left-hand side. So this S right here controls the left sword. It has a single coupler, as you'll see right here, which is bright green, just like the block behind the S. There's also a shade of red, which is always the same shade of 128 red. And that is used universally to disable any coupler or part you do not want. For instance, we can color this part, and we will no longer have a chainsword on our left arm. It almost looks awkward, it's kind of barren. So we're going to go back, we're going to sample the enabling color, enable it, push Z again to preview it, because Z to preview is incredibly handy. And there's our chainsword again. Now we have another one on the right hand side that works the same way, but with a different color. So we're going to enable it with the shade of blue. And now we have two chainswords, which are both activated to number 2 as previously covered. Whew, I want to roll here. So to move on, let's go over to head guns, because this is the second easiest part. This is the head guns beneath the giant T for top, or top guns, however you want to think of that. I call them head guns because I am inconsistent in naming. I'm not perfect, I'll admit it. So by default, we're going to see at the bottom coupler is colored, which is a head mortar. Personally, I find this virtually useless tactically. It's just kind of included because it's one of the more common visually of the Dreadnought weapons from 40k. Or so my Google searches have led me to believe, correct me if I'm wrong. So we're going to go and we're going to disable that with a shade of 128 red. So now we have nothing on our head, and that looks kind of awkward almost. So we're going to go get our enabling shade of green from behind the T, once again. It's the color that isn't red. And we're going to color, let's say, missiles, which is our middle one. Now we have missiles mounted on the head, which we'll use by the same button by pushing 1 on our keyboard. Next, we will have a sort of head machine gun array I can demonstrate very briefly here. Inside of a missile battery. For the love of God, don't do this. It's not possible to support that many attacks. But just so you know what it looks like, that's your head gun array. Now, moving on, we're going to go ahead and color that red. And we have select missiles. Now, for the next part, we're going to cover the arm weapons. And I want to make sure we cover this section very specifically, because this is by far the most expansive part. Things labeled R and things labeled L for the machine's left and right arms accordingly. Very organized sort of pattern we have going, even if the methodology is really screwy and unusual. So, by default, you can see we have a twin-length cannon and a missile launcher selected with a green laser on the right and red laser on the left. Now we're going to go in and we're going to disable both lasers using the disabling shade of red. The lasers can be found right here, the third on the machine's left, or the third on your right if you're facing the opposite of the machine. Now we're going to cover these couplers red, and we're going to do that, and we will have no more laser sights, as you can clearly see, except for on the missiles, because those are their own gig. Next, we're going to disable the right twin-linked cannon, which you can find right here. I'm going to review this in just a moment. We're going to disable the left-hand missiles. Once again, going to review. Whoops. And we can just recolor that quickly. And now we have no weapons, 2 chainswords, and a head-mounted missile launcher. So let's cover what weapons are which. Moving from the opposite of a machine's facing, left to right, we have right minigun, left minigun. You can tell because there are 6 of these cyan pieces, 6 barrels on a minigun. We have right laser sight, left laser sight, right twin-linked cannon, left twin-linked cannon. Twin-linked cannons, to review, are indeed tank gun type weapons that fire pellet spread and are essentially like shotguns. Now, these miniguns, as you might have guessed, fire normal bullets, meaning that they're stopped by shields, but can also stop missiles in midair, making them partially tactical. And they're very high rate of fire as well. Now, moving on, after that we have left missile launcher, right missile launcher, left stormbolter, right stormbolter, and left flamethrower, right flamethrower. It's flamethrower, melt-a-gun, whatever you want to call it. It's basically ambiguous at this point. I'm pretty sure meltas and flamethrowers are 2 different things, but we'll see. We'll see who corrects me in the comment section. Says, no, there's one shoots promethium, one shoots lasers, or whatever the distinction is. So, yeah. The missile launcher, we cover 3 pieces, indicated by these 3 pieces right here. On the Stormbolter, we just recolor this 1 piece, as indicated. And the Stormbolter, by the way, fires rapid-fire tank guns. These are as a economic rapid-fire machine gun to punch through shields and such, or generally just provide some of a bit more daka sound. And the Melta is really just a pile of beamers, so it actually fires in a 6-piece shotgun pattern over-under, which is quite devastating. And these are, of course, just launchers, as you would probably have guessed. So let's go and customize this. Let's say we want a shotgun on the right and a Stormbolter on the left. No. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a Stormbolter and a shotgun, just for absolute S&G's factor here. So we're going to need to find the left Stormbolter, because we want to do a left Stormbolter in this case. Color the 1 coupler. And now we have a left Stormbolter with its sort of a drum mag and everything. Once again, less than cannon, but it just struck my fancy, so I did so. Now, for the right, we're going to want twin-linked cannon, which we just disabled. I know, kind of funny how fight turns out. That's the penalty of true randomness. And to be clear, We recolor 3 things as indicated by this little overarching set of arrows. In fact, we recolor 4 things. So we're going to recolor those 4 bits. And the minigun, we only recolor this one piece right here. And same with the lasers, we recolor one of these at a time, just like green or red for the appropriate arm. Now, there we go. We have a nice twin-link cannon and a storm bolter. We have lots of tank gun for punching through shields. However, we can't shoot down actual missiles. So, trade-offs. For now, we're going to want to mount probably 2 green laser sights. These are incredibly handy for weapons you fire consistently, and you want to be able to aim with passively. So, basically anything that isn't missiles in my book, personally. Maybe you'll find a different preference, but that's just how I roll. So now we have 2 weapons which have been laser sighted, and it looks pretty a-okay. So next thing we're going to check is we're going to check our lasers and everything else, make sure it all fires and works as intended. So using left gun, that's rapid fire tank gun. Right gun, that's shotgun style tank gun. Our top weapon is indeed missiles with lock-on feature and volley fire. Our green lasers almost certainly work. But now this runs us into our next problem. Actually, we have 2 problems we need to address right now, so let's get into this. And notice the guns are off center, so let's get to controls and calibration. This is the final step. I'm glad you've made it this far. Now, for controls, if you're using missiles, you might want to set either L gun for the left arm or R gun for the right gun in the options menu to make them toggle-based instead of hold-based. You can do this just by checking the box next to it, but we're using 2 rapid-fire weapons, more or less, so we don't need to do that. Now, moving on, we want to cover the next part, weapon calibration. So let's take a look at that and get a feel for what is currently our calibration. To calibrate the weapons vertically so they both hit about the same height, and from there they fire on a different offset, but they're good for most combat ranges. Now you notice our right gun is maybe just a little bit high and our left gun is significantly low. So we're going to go and adjust that accordingly. Now to adjust the calibration, we're going to need to find the 4 tractors on the according arm. You can see them as they are invisible next to these cyan tractors. These cyan couplers, my apologies. So we're going to lower this to 5, let's say, and if you're using twin links by default, you might want to do that. It could be 5 or 6, I'm not entirely sure. And on the left, we're not sure actually, it's -1 currently, so we're going to mess with this. I think the safest way to put this is that usually the values -2, 0, and 4 and 6 seem to cover most values, so we're going to guess 4 because the stone bolter is pretty sawed off and designed pretty compact. And we're going to see how our guns align again. We just test this a couple times, get down the proper calibration, and make sure our weapons are ready to go for combat. And in fact, we are still aiming fairly low with our left, so we're going to kick this up to 6, if not higher. In fact, actually we made a rookie mistake. We didn't copy and paste all the effects. You want to copy and paste any changes you make to all the pieces of the arm. And we did that with the right arm, so we're pretty, the right arm, so we're pretty smart. But we make mistakes nonetheless. I'm sure you'll make mistakes in your own time. So, yeah, we're aiming maybe just a little bit low. In fact, I'd say both the guns are aiming a little bit low. I don't know if you can get it quite perfect using pure integers. I hope they really revamp this one day, but for now, whatever. And you want to use positive values for up and negative values for down. This is the same for both arms, luckily, making the process pretty streamlined. And now, if I'm not mistaken, we have our perfect alignment set up after just a few tests. And there we have it. Isn't that gorgeous? So we can fire at maybe like 60, 70 feet range and anything like directly in front of us. Not bad at all, really. We can just wail on this guy all we want and all we need. And it's not really that hard to do. In fact, we're running out of energy because the energy saving is only about 300%. It's worth mentioning now that where you intend to use the Dreadnought, certain weapons are more economic than others, and firing both weapons is indeed taxing upon the platform. Usually about 300 to 400 is workable, but 350 to 400 is optimal. 400 is about the best you're going to get, I would say. Or 400 above, I should clarify. I know me and the guys tend to run a mid-specs are about 350, 370, 400, depending on how I'm feeling that day. So, yeah, now we have a all-new Dreadnought. You know, we haven't had to actually move or add any parts. We just recolored some things and changed a couple values around, and we have new custom set of weapons that are properly calibrated for elevation. And otherwise, we have it customized for sake of fashion as well, and it is tactically diverse, I would even say. So, until next time, WCCC signing out.